Kyle Dubas and the Pittsburgh Penguins steal Wes Clark, who is the head of amateur scouting, from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this is going to be bad for them. And we get a huge report from NHL insiders that the Toronto Maple Leafs may be trading David Kämpf. We'll get into this later on this episode. Before we start, I just want to give a shout out to everyone that is subscribed. To the 82.3% of you guys that aren't, if you're enjoying this daily NHL news and you never want to miss another episode, make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button over here all offseason into next season, giving you updates from around the league. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Penguins hire Wes Clark. Now, if you've been on social media at all, you've seen the Pittsburgh Penguins have named Wes Clark Vice President of Player Personnel. He was hired by Kyle Dubas, and he was professionally a college European free agent scout with Kyle Dubas with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we've seen him join Dubas with the team as well. Now, we do see Dubas come out and speak on this, saying, having worked with Wes Clark for many years, I have deep trust in his ability to identify talent, lead staffs, advance our scouts process and methods, learn from mistakes to improve processes, and challenge my own thinking, planning on a nearly daily basis. Now, we've seen Wes Clark being a part of this Toronto team and really taking over as the head of scouting back in 2021-2022. Some of the big names Wes has drafted for the Toronto Maple Leafs was Easton Cowan last year, Fraser Minten, Matthew Nyes, the list continues on, and this is a big loss for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Casey, what's your thoughts on Kyle Dubas just kind of stealing such a big asset from the Leafs?
Yeah, Mark, like you said, this is a big blow to take for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like you said, that list of talent, those guys are playing phenomenal right now. Easton Cowan is the notable one. Obviously, Matthew Nyes came in and has still been in that lineup. And recently drafted Ben Danford, who is showing to be a really good pick out of development camp here. And the list goes on, like you said. And this... it might not seem like a huge blow to you guys watching at home, but this is huge for the future of the Toronto Maple Leafs, because this guy, it has that knack, has that eye for finding talent and drafting them, maybe taking a shot on them when they maybe went later in the draft, and then taking them early to prove that this guy knows what he's talking about. Like we just seen with Easton Cowan. Everybody said that was a bad pick, but look what it's proven to be now. It was an amazing pick. So losing a guy like this who has the eye for finding those key young prospects is definitely a huge blow to the franchise, Mark.
And the biggest thing is, when we've seen Brad Treliving come over from Calgary to join the Leafs team, he could not draft with the team in the first round due to them knowing all of Calgary's secrets going into the draft. But we've seen Wes Clark step in and say, hey, Easton Cowan's our guy. We're taking him at pick 28. A lot of people looked at that and said, this is absurd. This is a guy that should be going in the mid to late second round. But we've seen Easton Cowan explode in the OHL with the London Knights, and to the point of he may crack the opening night roster. So losing a guy like this, a guy that can help you draft late, the Leafs are not going to be a lottery team for quite some time. So having someone with a brilliant mind to really find these deep picks in the late 20s into the 30s and make it able so you can trade back picks, move around picks, and still get the best available guy is going to be hard for the Leafs to replace. They're going to look within the organization, and this really came at a just kind of a surprise to the Leafs organization, as Wes Clark was at the entire development camp before leaving for Pittsburgh. But what's your guys' thoughts on this? Are you worried the Leafs drafting style is going to drop down a bit? Who do you hope they hire as a new head of it? Is this someone in the organization? Maybe someone on a different team? Let us know down in the comments. But with that, we'll hop straight into the second topic today, which is David Kämpf trade imminent. So we do give reports from Nick Kypreos, and he says the bottom six forwards need some attention as well. David Kämpf is still plans the leads checking line. There's a good chance that cupmate there can be replaced by prospect Fraser Minten, or time to look for an NHL ready player elsewhere. We also get a report from Chris Johnson via the Chris Johnson Show. He said they would look at moving Kampf, Calle Järnkrok, or Timothy Liljegren in the right deal. I should be very clear. That is not saying they're trying to get rid of them at all costs, but I think it's become, with the Leafs salary cap, they're pretty tight up against the wall. Now, obviously, David Kämpf is a guy the Toronto Maple Leafs brought in a few seasons ago. Excellent penalty killer, a guy that can run your top penalty unit. But the biggest thing with Kämpf is his contract. We can see that he still has 3 more years left on this contract, getting paid $2.4 million. When you look at Kämpf's production offensively, he isn't the best. 78 games last year, 8 goals, 11 assists for 19 points. And as you can see, over the last 3 seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs, he has combined for 5 total points in the playoffs as well. Sorry, 6 total points in the playoffs. So having a guy like this on your fourth line, making this much money, Casey, what's your thoughts on the Leafs maybe looking to move him out to sign someone else?
Yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense here. Obviously, David Kämpf's a great player. He's a great defensive forward. He can win the draws. Like you said, he's great on the penalty kill as well. But, for that cap hit, if you can move him out, get rid of that cap, you may be able to bring in, a couple of veterans for that money, or even just, someone who can fill that role. And it makes perfect sense for them to try to go out and do this trade because, it isn't that big of a loss. Yes, it's the penalty killing is going to take a huge hit from this, but I think moving him out is definitely the right idea here because right now the Leafs have no wiggle room in terms of cap at all, so they need to clear something up, and it just looks like David Kämpf is looking like the odd man out here in Toronto. And there is lots of players that even a younger player that you could bring in, maybe like a Fraser Minton to fill this maybe fourth line center role, or even you could pick up somebody in free agency because the fourth line doesn't get many minutes. I mean, you need someone to center a line with Ryan Reeves. You're going to try to get the best available defensive forward at the price range that you can get, but it does make sense for them to even move him out just for picks or to move him out for a guy who's worth a little bit less so they can use some more money to bring somebody else in.
And the biggest thing is you're looking at this Toronto Maple Leafs roster. Obviously, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, John Tavares, Mitch Marner are the top highest paid forwards. You go down one more for the fifth one, Max Domi, and then the sixth highest paid forward being David Kämpf. I'm not saying David Kämpf is not worth this $2.4 million, but having a guy being your sixth highest paid forward, playing fourth line minutes, yes, he's going to get a lot of time on the penalty kill. Yes, he can move up in your lineup and get into the third line spot, but looking at the current construction of this roster, if you bring up a guy like Easton Cowan, because you don't have cap hit, having David Kämpf on the fourth seems almost redundant. Yes, you can move a guy like Pontus Holmberg over. I thought his defensive game really improved throughout the year. We've seen him get into playoff games. This was a guy at one point that was an SHL MVP in the playoffs. So getting a guy like Pontus Holmberg in on that fourth line center, even maybe centering the third line if you wanted to go out and spend more money on a left wing than a guy like Easton Cowan, would create so much room for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You still have guys like Connor Dewar, Nick Robertson that can slide into this team, but the problem with this is the Toronto Maple Leafs have no cap room to work with. You can see that there's two RFAs on the bottom. There's two RFAs going into next year in Matthew Knies and Pontus Holmberg. Clearing up this $2.4 million would be incredible for this team. A team looking for more changes. Maybe this is bringing in more depth scoring. Maybe this is bringing in a new fourth liner that can be more physical and more speed to his game. But if you're going to move on from a guy like Connor Timmins, if you're going to move on a guy from like David Kämpf here, or a guy like Calle Järnkrok, who would you want to move the most, Casey?
Yeah, David Kämpf, like I said, seems like the odd man out here. It just seems like that is the situation because, like you said, you have Connor Dewar who you can bring back as an RFA, whether he goes through arbitration or whether they just sign him straight up. He can play that center role as well. Like you said, Pontus Holmberg is there, who at times last year played that fourth line center role and played it very well, in my opinion. So it just makes sense that, they kind of have too many centers right now. Yes, they have centers that can also play the wing, but moving out a pure center like David Kämpf, so one of these guys can slide back in maybe to their natural position on the faceoff dot, just makes the most amount of sense. Obviously, like you said, you don't want to see a guy like him go because he impacts the team in different ways than scoring, but it just seems like him being the sixth highest paid forward isn't really working out for Toronto, and they're just looking on to move on from him so one of these other guys can take that position on the fourth line center.
And the biggest thing is going into playoff games, obviously we know this top six can score. We've seen it year after year. We've seen Austin Matthews score 69 goals, which is nice. We see William Nylander, a guy that can score 40. Mitch Marner getting 99 points. These guys can produce, but the bottom six is what needs the improvement in scoring. Maybe you attach a guy like David Kämpf, Connor Timmins, and something else to go out and get a big fish, maybe a guy making $3 million to play that third line left wing. Maybe you attach a guy like Nick Robertson and go out and get a bigger piece than that that as well. But the Toronto Maple Leafs need to make room. I think it's a matter of time before we see 1, 2, or 3 of the players we listed today traded. What would your guys' thoughts on this? Who would you rather trade? What kind of package would you like? Would you rather bring back Nick Robertson and just kind of keep the team the way it is? Let us know down in the comments. But speaking on comments, let's get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. The comment today comes from Jay Robinson. He says, "Grats on 4K and shout out to you. It's awesome to see that we hit 4,000 subscribers. We're going to set our goal to 4,500 to have at the end of August. Actually, let's say 5,000. I know you guys can get us there. It's just under a month, 15 to 20 days away. So if you guys have been enjoying this, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. Make sure to leave a comment because you could be featured on the next episode like Robinson did today. While you're down there, share this with your friends, leave a like. We'll be back today or tomorrow with another episode. So make sure to turn on the post notifications so you do get a notification when we do. But I've been your host, Mark Pye, with my co-host, KC. Take care.